So I'm probably just going to use my own file cache thing because I only care for caching the points. Where are they? So the simulation points. Maybe in this case, maybe I want to. Let's just cache the points. So, I mean, you can cache any of these outputs. Probably if you use the RBD.io, it will do a lot of this stuff for you that I'm gonna do. So let's have a look if it's actually the case. Oh yeah, so this is doing something that I'm gonna do myself, and then I'm gonna explain how it works. And I don't really need to do it myself because I can just do it in the RBD.io, but I just want to explain how it works so you'll learn more. Yeah, so I just cache out the points, YOLO. Right, so I'm gonna cache out the points and call it RBD points. And that's also the interesting thing in Houdini. Like a lot of these new tools, like the RBD.io, they're just built from other nodes. Like you can just go through it. And like this technique here is something people were using for years. And then before they were using this, you would build this thing yourself in VOPs. I don't think you can. Maybe you can go in here. Yeah. Okay. So you can see this thing in here is just built with VOPs and VAX. So before that thing was there, people would just build it themselves. So that's also why Houdini has such a fast and amazing release cycle, because everything is built from tools that are already there, and they're just building up on existing things and just making stuff easier. So that's why they're really exponentially growing and coming out with stuff faster than that other programs aren't, because it's super modular. Anyway, so let's just cache this out. I guess let's do 120 frames. Press save to disk, and let's wait for it to cache. Right, so let's put load from disk. Now we have points flying outwards. And what we can actually do is, like, if we look at these points, right? So you can see these points have our names. They have an orient, again, which can be used for orientation. And a whole bunch of other attributes. So velocity and W, that's spinning velocity. And you can actually use those. So we can use these points and then transform our original pieces back. So we're going to use transform pieces. And let's plug in let's use our high resolution geometry. So the RBD.io has a couple of it's like it has the proxy geometry, which is this thing. So you can see that's without any detail. Just turn this off. So without any detail, and it has detailed geometry. Right, so let's just say that we want to transform our detailed geometry. So this transform pieces, again, that's also what they're using in the RBD.io. So essentially, I'm just rebuilding it. So what do we want to transform? We want to transform this. What do we want to transform it by? Well, we want to transform it by the information on our points here and rest points. So that's going to be a rest position for our points. Well, that's just going to be a time shift. I'm going to put a time shift on our points. Put it to the first frame and plug it in there. And then you can see we have a rigid body explosion. Again, RBD.io does exactly the same thing. What we could have also just done, which is probably the better workflow if you're doing this, is just putting a RBD.io, plugging in these things, then saying RBD sim slash RBD sim, let's say 3001 slash RBD sim, something like that. Say frame, and we need to $F4. Then if we were to cache that out, let's see if I'm not overriding anything. No, I'm not. Okay. I guess let's cache this out. So that thing is essentially just going to do the same thing that I'm doing here, but now you kind of know what it does under the hood. And of course, if you know how it works under the hood, then you can you have more control over it if you happen to want to change stuff later. Right, so here we have this thing. So this would essentially do the same thing as the thing that we're doing here. So it's absolutely no difference. Like this is just using this, but in this case, we did it ourselves. So what we could have done was say that we want to like whatever, like let's say that we could say assemble, create back geometry, transfer attributes, transfer every attribute. So that's not working. Do not create name object. So now it's packed. So you can see. So when it's packed, essentially so packed geometry is essentially counts as a point. So essentially what you can then do is say, let's add delete geometry key points. So does it remove the attribute if we do that? I don't think so. Oh, it does. Does it still work? It does, okay. And then we can say copy the points. Let's attribute create, or let's say attribute randomize. And the thing I'm doing here, I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with the project, but just to show stuff you can do. Test geometry pig head. Let's back an instance. Let's plug it in there. And now we suddenly have exploding pigs. So again, like if you wanted to do something like that, I mean, I think IBD.io probably also still has the point output, simulate points. I mean, so you could use that IO, but mostly that you kind of understand what's going on. So, and that you can actually just swap stuff like this later in the simulation. So if you understand this, then it's going to open up a lot of cool possibilities. You can see they just transform with whatever. So all it's doing is it looking at rest positions and rest orientations. And again, orientations come from orient. Then it's gonna look at the other input, which is the positions where are they going to, and then it's gonna do this. So you can delete this whole thing because we don't really need it, but that this way you know exactly what is going on. Again, fundamentals.